Hey fifth graders, welcome to reading. Today we're going to be reading about a sport called fencing. The informational article we'll be reading is called Today's Swordsman, and it is in our textbook, pages 346 through 342. And we will do workbook page 137 together. Here's what the textbook pages look like. And this is the workbook page. As you have probably noticed, it is quite a long article. It looks kind of long because there's a lot of pages, but don't worry, there's a lot of pictures, as you can see. And this will be a great opportunity for us to learn how to dissect and understand long texts. So when reading a long text, I have a few tips for you. When you first read it, we're going to do this together. Scan the title, the bolded words, the italicized words, the headings, and kind of make a prediction on what you think the article will be about. So let's go ahead and do that. You can even look at the pictures. So just by the title and the pictures here. Okay, we know that we're going to be learning about the uniform of the sport of fencing. We're going to learn about what they use. We're going to learn about competition. We're going to learn about how these athletes compete with each other. And it looks like we're going to also learn about some position names. Salute, lunging, thrust, parry, riposte. So it looks like all of these words are going to tell us a little bit about the sport. Okay, so kind of scan it, underline any words you think are important. Okay, once you've done that, we're going to read the entire text, underlining any vocabulary words or phrases you don't understand. So I'd like to encourage you to take a highlighter or a different colored pen, something you can see very well, and underline any words or phrases you don't understand, as many as possible. And then when you get some time later, try to read it again using context clues to try to guess what you think these words might mean. If you're really stuck, of course, you can use the dictionary, translator, or the thesaurus. What we're going to do in today's reading is I'm going to stop a couple times to ask you comprehension questions just to gauge the understanding of the text. And I just want you to pretend that we're in the classroom and just actually answer my questions out loud, and even pause the video if you need to. Great. So as we saw in our textbook, we're going to be reading about a sport called fencing. Okay? This is sword fighting. Back in the day, prior to the Caribbean, this is a sport of fencing. You might have seen this on TV. Korea also has a lot of players that go in the Olympics for this. And some words to look out for. These are fencing vocabulary words. Thrust, corpse, a corpse, lunge, foil, parry, riposte. So if you'd like, you could even write these words down in your notebook and look out for them as we read. Today's Swordsman by Andy Thompson. Gleaming swords dance under the lights. Two armed men leap back and forth at each other. A crowd looks on in respectful silence. The air is charged with tense expectation. Perhaps this scene reminds you of the Three Musketeers or the famous sword fighters from another century, but it could describe one form of sword fighting that is still practiced today, the sport of fencing. We usually think of sword fighters as men who fearlessly swing their swords while hanging from chandeliers or striding across tabletops. But today, fencing matches take place in narrow, taped-off lanes called fencing strips. I'm going to be underlining any fencing vocabulary. Okay? Contests are supervised by judges and a director. Good fencers rely less on brute strength and more on skill and quick reflexes. Okay, let's pause here for a second. My first question for you is, fencing is a form of what kind of fighting? Pause here. Tell me your answer. If you said sword fighting, you're correct. My second question for you is, what do people need in order to be a good fencer? Pause here. Give me your answer. He said that good fencers need good skills and quick reflexes. You're correct. Let's go ahead and read about the uniform that fencers wear. Unlike the deadly sword fighting of the past, modern fencing is carried out with concern for personal safety. Fencers wear helmets made of finely woven wire mesh. So they wear helmets. The fencing jacket is padded. The collar of the jacket and a heavy canvas bib attached to the mask protect the fencer's neck. So that's the canvas bib here to protect the neck. A sturdy glove covers the fencer's sword hand. One type of fencing sword is called a foil. It weighs a little more than 1 pound and is about 3.5 feet long. A curving hand guard protects the hand grip. The blade tapers to a flexible point, and a heavy plastic coating covers the blunted tip. A fencing foil cannot pierce the protective jacket of a fencer, but it can still inflict a nasty bruise if used improperly. Good fencers avoid hurting each other with the foil. Since the goal of fencing is speed and skill, muscling a foil into an opponent is poor sportsmanship. Okay, let's unpack this for a second. I'm going to create a short outline on the side just so it will be easier for us to follow along with the text. If you would like to, I would encourage you to write this as well in your notebook, but it's not necessary. So the uniform, what do they need? Tell me. Helmets. What else? Padded jacket, like padding. What else? Canvas bib to protect what? The neck. They also need a glove. We also have the fencing sword, which is called the what? Foil. Very good. All right, so we got the main outline for that. Let's move on to the next section. Competition. Fencers observe many rules of etiquette while competing. Opponents salute each other by standing at attention with their heels at right angles. The fencers do not face each other squarely. Rather, each turns his head slightly over his left or right shoulder to eye his opponent. He points his foil straight down. So like that. Then he snaps it up, right, so that the handguard is level with his chin. With the same brisk motion, he returns the foil to its original position. So grab a pencil, pretend that it's a fencing sword, and try doing that. Try doing the salute. So you got to put it down, and then up, and then down again. Right. After a match, fencers remove their masks and shake hands. Fencers always shake hands with the hand that is not holding the foil. That means that a right-handed fencer will hold his foil in his right hand and shake hands with the left. The fencer's stance is low, so that's like the posture. His feet are almost 2 shoulder widths apart. He holds his back arm above his head with the wrist and hand relaxed. Every step takes coordination and poise. The fencer knows that he can use his stance to gain distance and power. He advances by stepping forward first with the front foot and then with the back. He retreats or moves back by moving the back foot first and following with the front foot. The fencer lunges by leaping forward with the front foot. An effective lunge may cover a distance of 6 feet, yet the fencer is able to pull back quickly to retreat. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. Tell me, guys, how does a fencer salute each other? Tell me. Yeah, so they point it down, the foil down, then you snap it up, and then you bring it down, right? return to the original position. And how is the stance, the posture of the fencer? Low stance. And how does a fencer lunge? Yes, they leap forward with the front foot. I believe there's a picture on the next page that tells us this. Yep, there we go, that's the lunge. Go ahead and stand up, try it yourself. Fencers also observe strict rules to score during the match. A fencer must claim his right of attack. He does this by being the first one to make a threatening action. Usually he will simply thrust his foil forward. He may follow the thrust with any of several complicated moves. His opponent must first parry or block the attack or evade it. The opponent can then riposte or counterattack. Then the first person must parry or evade. This back and forth type of attacking and defending continues until both persons draw back or one of them scores a point. A fencer scores a point by striking at, let's underline this, his opponent's torso, which is the chest and back. Hits directed elsewhere are against the rules. So you can what are the two areas that a fencer can quote-unquote attack? Chest and back. Good. A fencing match can be compared to a conversation. In conversation, one person speaks and the other replies. In fencing, one person attacks and the other parries and counterattacks. Do you remember what parries mean? Use the block. Very good. It is impolite to interrupt one person's attack with a counterattack. Instead, the defender parries or blocks, ending the attack, and then has the chance to counterattack. So they take turns. Traditional fencing matches are supervised by 4 judges. The judges form a square around the fencers, just like this. They're making a square, right? So these are the 2 fencers, and these are the 4 judges and the director. They follow the fencers up and down the fencing strip. A 5th person, called the director or president, governs the match. When a judge sees a point, he will call it, and the director recognizes him and consults quickly with the other judges. In recent years, electronic equipment has replaced the judges in some matches, leaving only the director to decide on points. Electronic equipment is more accurate than judges, but it is also expensive. Although skill is the key to good fencing, the fencer can use his strength in some attacking techniques. He can beat his opponent's foil with a single sharp blow to the blade. This will knock it aside and allow him to strike. That is, to aim the mid of his foil at the opponent's midsection. Or he can execute a press to force his opponent's blade down or away. A strong fencer also used the glide, pushing so hard against his opponent's blade that he forces it down, sliding his own blade across it to score a point. Occasionally, one fencer will try to block another fencer's glide by strength alone. When this happens, their foils will slide up against each other all the way to the handguards. The result is that they stand pushing against each other at the handguards. Such an encounter is called a corpse to corpse. It literally means body to body. Although it looks dramatic, a corpse to corpse may mean that one or both opponents are using strength instead of skill. Another basic technique is the disengage. In a disengage, a fencer quickly circles his blade under his opponent's blade. A disengage can prevent a contest of strength. The fencer can also use a cutover, in which he circles his blade over the blade of his opponent. Although modern fencing does require strength, it is designed so that a person cannot win by strength alone, but must develop speed, coordination, and strategy. As is true in any sport, fencers develop their skills with practice and hard work. So I'm going to pause here and we will continue in our part 2 video. See you soon!